नमस्कार मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों। वाटर राइड 41 साल बाद हम वापस अंतरिक्ष में पहुंच गए हैं और कमाल की राइड थी। इस समय हम 7.5 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड की रफ्तार से पृथ्वी के चारों तरफ घूम रहे हैं और मेरे कंधे पे मेरे साथ मेरा तिरंगा है जो मुझे बता रहा है कि नहीं हूँ, मैं आप सबके साथ हूँ। ये मेरी इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन तक की जर्नी की शुरुआत नहीं है, ये भारत के ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत है और मैं चाहता हूं कि आप सभी देशवासी इस यात्रा का हिस्सा बने। आपका भी सीना दिल से चौड़ा होना चाहिए, आप भी उतना ही एक्साइटमेंट दिखाइए। आइए हम सब मिलकर भारत की इस ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की जर्नी की शुरुआत करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Hey, thanks, Paul. Here in the International Space Station Flight Control Room, the team is prepared and ready to support today's launch. This attempt comes after NASA and Roscosmos discussed recent repair work in the transfer tunnel at the aftmost segment of the Orbital Labs Zvezda service module. And now we are all looking forward to the Axiom 4 crew being on board Space Station soon. We'll provide a full Space Station status update in a few minutes, but know we need to bring everyone up to speed on today's activities and the launch status. So for now, back to you, Ronnie.
Thanks, Sandra. We'll hear more from Mission Control in just a few minutes, but we do want to take a moment first to introduce everyone to the crew of AX4. Aside from Axiom Space Commander Peggy Whitson, each crew member represents a return to human spaceflight for their nation after more than 40 years.
And starting with our commander, today's mission is led by Peggy Whitson of the United States. There is simply not enough time to cover her entire resume, but to give you just a few highlights, Peggy has earned degrees in biology, chemistry, and biochemistry. She was the first female commander of the International Space Station. She has spent over 675 total days in space, during which she logged 60 hours across 10 spacewalks. She is also a two-time commander for Axiom Space, having previously served aboard AX2, and she was just inducted as a member of the 2025 Astronaut Hall of Fame. So congratulations and well-deserved, Peggy.
Next is mission pilot Shubhanshu Shukla of India, whose call sign as a test pilot is Shooks. Representing the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, Shooks is also an astronaut designate of India's inaugural human spaceflight effort, Gangayaan, featuring an Indian-built rocket and spacecraft. He was commissioned into the Indian Air Force Fighter Wing in 2006 and achieved the rank of Group Captain in 2024. He has over 2,000 hours of flight experience aboard a variety of aircraft.
And our third crew member is Mission Specialist Sławomir Uznański-Wiśniewski of Poland. He is representing the European Space Agency as a project astronaut, coming from the reserve class of 2022, much like Marcus Want, who served as a mission specialist on AX3. A scientist by trade, Sławomir has earned his Master of Science with honors from Łódź University of Technology in 2008. He holds a second Master of Science and a graduate engineering diploma as well. He also spent 2 years as the engineer in charge of the world-famous Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, beginning in 2018.
And rounding out this crew is mission specialist Tibor Kafu of Hungary, who represents the Hungarian to Orbit Astronaut Program, or HUNOR. He graduated from the Budapest University of Technology and Economics, earning a degree in mechanical engineering, followed by a master's degree specializing in polymer technology. In 2023, Tibor emerged as one of 4 Hungarians selected from a pool of 247 candidates for the HUNOR astronaut program.
And together, they are the crew of AX4, Axiom Space's 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. Today's flight represents the return to spaceflight for 3 nations, but it also highlights the growing opportunities for nations and entities around the world to conduct meaningful work in low Earth orbit. And right now, as you see there, Peggy, Shooks, Sławomir, and Tibor sit inside Dragon. There are colleagues and students and space enthusiasts the world over gathering to cheer them on here at the start of their mission. And so we'd love to share just a few live streams that we're getting from launch parties in India and Poland. Thanks, Sandra. And so things are looking good on the launch pad. The teams are continuing to progress towards launch at 2:31 a.m. Eastern. We'd love to take a minute and just take a look back at what's happened already this evening to get us to this point in the countdown. So for context, we want to say this crew has been living in an isolated quarantine bubble for the last 4 weeks, having reported to quarantine on May 25th. In that time, they have shifted their sleep regimen to adjust their circadian rhythm to match those on board the International Space Station. And over the last few days, they have finessed that further to be ready for today. In fact, their wake-up call was set to 6:30 p.m. earlier yesterday, I should say, depending on where you are. But then about 4.5 hours prior to the scheduled launch time, the Axiom Space ground operations team drove the AX-4 crew to Kennedy Space Center, where they shared a brief moment with loved ones before officially being handed over to SpaceX for today's launch. This handover event has taken on quite a few forms over the years, but there's always something truly special about creating a moment, even just for a few minutes, in the midst of all of this operational choreography, to pause and share a moment with loved ones. And there you see the team did just that in front of the VAB before getting into the Teslas and riding out to the Falcon Support Building to be ready for launch today.
Absolutely. After that T-minus 4-hour briefing, the SpaceX team helped the crew suit up at our Falcon Support Building. You got a video on your screen that was recorded earlier today of the crew stepping out in their suits and waving to everybody there for the first time before getting in our 2 Teslas to caravan over to Launch Complex 39A. They do ride in pairs over to 39A, often accompanied by members of our launch closeout team, who you see there as the crew celebrates that they are on their way over to launch. Once they reached the tower, they ascended up to the Dragon spacecraft and were able to make one last phone call before signing the White Room wall. Here you see the crew walking across the crew access arm, getting their boarding passes handed to them and checked by our closeout team. You'll notice that Peggy Whitson's is gold because she is a frequent flyer with us here at SpaceX. And then once our crew ingressed Dragon, we completed suit leak checks and comm checks before rotating the seats into the reclined position for launch. Love these videos of them up in the White Room there. You can see those signatures on the wall behind them, hugging the closeout team before ingressing the capsule. Then from there, that is the same team that closes the hatch and seals everything in the preparation for launch. Right now, we are still waiting on those final weather checks coming up, but prop load has begun. So all of that brought us through the confirmations we've been listening to, the check-ins, confirming that the crew arm is stowed, and of course, as we were listening so intently for earlier today, that our launch escape system is armed.
Dragon SpaceX, go for launch.
AX-4 is go for launch.
That is great news for mission control and from our crew on board Dragon. With that, we are just at T-minus 30 seconds to lift off of AX-4.
Let's go AX-4.
15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff.
For 3 nations, a new chapter in space takes flight. Godspeed, AX-4.
T plus 30 seconds into flight with the Axiom 4 crew on board Dragon, headed to the International Space Station. Waiting to hear call-outs from the Falcon 9 engineering team.
Power and telemetry nominal. Stage 1 throttle.
We're throttling down the 9 Merlin engines. We're into the throttle bucket, preparing for max Q.
Max Q. Vehicle is supersonic.
We should begin throttling the Merlin engines back up now.
Stage 1 throttle up.
Mission control confirming
Stage 1 Bravo.
that throttle up, and we
Copy
are
1 Bravo.
Hearing our commander, Peggy Whitson, call out the first abort mode. Each of these are a specific phase where if for any reason we had an in-flight abort,
underway.
Dragon would abort to a safe location. So we're going to call out each of those milestones as we pass through them. We also just heard the call out for MVAC chill. We're going to trickle just a little bit of liquid oxygen now into the turbo pumps on board our Merlin vacuum engine on stage 2 in preparation for second engine start 1, which will of course be shortly after stage separation. Now, at this point, we are just about 30 seconds away from 4 events that are going to happen in rapid succession. The first one will be main engine cutoff, or MECO, then again followed by stage separation, ignition of that second stage engine, which we are already preparing for, as well as the first stage's boost back burn. With that confirmation from Mission Control that we are throttling the first stage engines down, we are expecting MECO at T plus 2 minutes and 26 seconds.
MECO. Stage separation confirmed. Stage 1 boost back startup and back ignition.
There we had confirmation of all 4 of those events. Incredible views on our screen here too as that boost back, as that first stage boosts its way back to Earth.
Stage 2 Alpha.
And confirmation
Copy,
from our
2 Alpha.
commander that we have entered the 2 Alpha abort mode. Of course, we're getting lots of cheers from behind us here at Mission Control here in Hawthorne, California as well. And at this point, our AX4 crew is on their way to space. The view you have on your screen right now is our MVAC engine burning for that second engine first burn. We're expecting that SECO here, second engine cutoff, which will likely be called out over the nets as SECO in just a couple of minutes.
Stage 1 boost back shut down.
Confirmation that the boost back burn on our first stage booster is now complete, and the booster is heading back toward the Florida coast to attempt a landing at LZ1. At this point, stage 1 is actually still coasting to apogee. We're about to deploy those grid fins so that we can steer the vehicle as it enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
And that call out from Mission Control means
Dragon
that
copies, nominal trajectory.
everything is right on track.
T plus 4 minutes, everything continuing to go well, and we've got our first view of the crew. They're inside Dragon, second stage continuing to fire. Right now, second stage, just a little bit more than 1G. There's so much propellant that even with a 220,000-pound thrust engine, it takes a while before the G loads start to build up during the second stage flight. Meanwhile, first stage continuing to coast up to apogee, and actually now, as you can see on the bottom left of your monitors, we have begun coming back down. It takes a couple minutes to go up, a couple minutes to come back down. That first stage heading back to landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral. Now,
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
words we love to hear.
Dragon copies, nominal trajectory.
Peggy Whitson echoing back the call up from the ground. Now, our next major event coming up will be in about 1 minute and 10 seconds. That's going to be the entry burn. That's where we're going to light a single center engine on the first stage. That's going to slow us down in preparation for entering the Earth's atmosphere again. We'll then have a landing burn about 1 minute later at T plus 7 minutes and 19 seconds. Now, for that one, we actually light 3 engines again. Then quickly once we've kind of jammed the brakes on, then we'll turn off 2 of the engines. We'll be down to just a single engine. Getting good views of the MVAC-D engine. There are a couple of cameras on the back of the second stage that give these views. And of course, the view inside the Dragon spacecraft showing the crew.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Continuing the call-outs right on time.
Dragon copies, nominal trajectory.
Now, right now, as Ronnie pointed out, the grid fins have been deployed, but they're not being used. Right before the entry burn, we'll possibly see a little bit of motion if we can pick up the first stage camera. That's just to check out. It's not until we actually get through the entry burn.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
That we get back in the atmosphere. And now here is entry burn call out. This is going to be about a 12-second burn. That's going to slow the vehicle down. You can
Stage
watch
1
that.
entry burn shutdown.
There you just saw on the left-hand side of your screen that first stage entry burn shutdown. Right now on your screen, we've got great views of our second stage and take our AX-4 crew to orbit. The next milestone for our first stage is going to be the landing burn, where we'll relight just the center engine, as John mentioned.
Dragon, SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Again, things we love to hear.
Stage 1 FTS.
Dragon copies. Nominal trajectory.
Continuing to get good communication from our crew on board Dragon.
Stage 1 transonic.
Confirmation that stage 1 is now transonic on its way back to LZ-1, which is just about 9 miles away from our liftoff location today. LZ-1, of course, is the site of the first successful landing attempt, and hopefully it will be the second time that this particular booster sticks its landing. Seeing those actuating of the grid fins that John mentioned.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 2 FTSS saved. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
That was a picture-perfect landing. That was great.
Absolutely stunning.
So coming up next for our crew, now that we've confirmed that booster touchdown, is going to be second engine cutoff, also called out as SECO. Then the second stage will coast for a few minutes until Dragon is commanded to separate from the second stage. There's our AX-4 crew awaiting that SECO call out here.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Good continued burn from our second stage engine there. Now, at this point, our crew is experiencing about 3 Gs in the lead up to SECO 1, which, of course, will be their first taste of microgravity.
SpaceX Dragon, Shannon.
There's confirmation
Copy, Shannon.
of the Shannon abort mode.
MVAC shutdown. SpaceX Dragon, we have a nominal orbit insertion.
Nominal orbital insertion, SpaceX, and we had an incredible ride uphill, and now we like to set our course for the International Space Station aboard the newest member of the Dragon fleet, our spacecraft named Grace. Grace is more than a name. It reflects the elegance with which we move through space against the backdrop of Earth. It speaks to the refinement of our mission, the harmony of science and spirit, and the unmerited favor we carry with humility. Grace reminds us that spaceflight is not just a feat of engineering, but an act of goodwill. Benefit of every human, everywhere. Over to you, Chip.
Blanchesque système disarmed.
10 minutes into flight.
Water right. नमस्कार मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, वाटर राइड 40 साल बाद हम वापस अंतरिक्ष में पहुंच गए हैं और कमाल की राइड थी। इस समय हम 7.5 किलोमीटर प्रति सेकंड की रफ्तार से पृथ्वी के चारों तरफ घूम रहे हैं और मेरे कंधे पे मेरे साथ मेरा तिरंगा है जो मुझे बता रहा है कि नहीं हूँ, मैं आप सबके साथ हूँ। ये मेरी इंटरनेशनल स्पेस स्टेशन तक की जर्नी की शुरुआत नहीं है, ये भारत के ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत है और मैं चाहता हूं कि आप सभी देशवासी इस यात्रा का हिस्सा बने। आपका भी सीना गर्व से चौड़ा होना चाहिए, आप भी उतना ही एक्साइटमेंट दिखाइए। आइए हम सब मिलकर भारत के इस ह्यूमन स्पेस प्रोग्राम की जर्नी की शुरुआत करें। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
Thank you, Chuck. Drogie Polki i Polacy, dziś robimy ogromny krok w stronę przyszłości technologicznej Polski. Polski opartej na nauce, wiedzy i wizji. Niech ta misja będzie początkiem epoki, w której nasza odwaga i nieustępliwość kształtują nowoczesną Polskę. Dla nas i dla przyszłych pokoleń. Kosmos zawsze jednoczył ludzi. Zabieram dziś z ziemi cząstkę każdego z was. Waszej siły, waszej nadziei, waszego zaufania. W kosmosie nie jestem sam. Reprezentuję nas wszystkich. Z całego serca dziękuję wam za zaufanie. Kosmos dla wszystkich. Space for everyone. And with that, over to you, Thibaut.
Thank you, Sław. 15 millió magyar emelt ma idáig. Támogatásotok olyan, mint a szürke hamu alatt nyugvó parázs. Belül csendben ízik, de ha fát dobnak rá, egyként lángol. Hálás és büszke vagyok, hogy a hazánkat képviseltem. Családomnak és barátaimnak köszönöm, hogy ti vagytok a legerősebb támaszaim. A ti hangotok hangosabb, mint a rakétánk, erőtök nagyobb, mint a gravitáció. A világűr mindenkié, a Föld pedig egyetlen. Mi a bolygónk 4 különböző pontjáról indultunk, de társakként, barátokként érkeztünk ide. A mi küldetésünk a tiétek is. Köszönöm mindenkinek szerte a világon, akik hozzájárultak ez a gyönyörű naphoz. Egynek minden nehéz, soknak semmi sem lehetetlen. Go AX4!
And we are getting some views inside of the newly named capsule that the crew announced today.
On behalf of the entire SpaceX launch team, thank you. It's been a privilege to work with you so far, and we're excited for you to have a safe flight and a safe return home. Good things come to those who wait. Godspeed to the maiden crew of Grace.
And we thank you all as well.
And so with today's successful launch of Axiom 4, the teams at NASA's Johnson Space Center will continue to monitor Dragon's flight to the International Space Station over the next 28 and a half hours. NASA's role in this journey really kicks in at a period called Integrated Operations, which begins during the spacecraft's approach to the space station and continues during the crew's stay aboard the orbiting laboratory, where they will conduct science, education, and commercial activities, and will conclude once the spacecraft exits the vicinity of the International Space Station. During integrated operations, the NASA, SpaceX, and Axiom space teams are all working in lockstep. The teams here are preparing for a docking of Axiom 4 to the space station at 7 a.m. Eastern on Thursday morning and will continue to monitor the approach until then. But for now, that will be it for us here in Mission Control Houston, but we'll be back with you at 5 a.m. Eastern for docking, hatch opening, and welcome coverage. So with that, back over to you, Hawthorne.
Thanks so much, Sandra. Over the next 28 and a half hours, the Dragon spacecraft Grace will execute a series of burns to gradually raise and line up the AX-4 crew for docking with the International Space Station in what we refer to as the activation and rendezvous phase of flight. In just a few minutes, the crew will change out of their spacesuits to get a little bit more comfortable for flight and will enjoy their first meal aboard the spacecraft. Over the course of their flight, they will also have a rest period that will last for about 8 hours. Before they arrive at the space station, we will have 3 potential opportunities to chat briefly with the crew on orbit. While we're hopeful that one of these will work out, none of them are guaranteed, as they're dependent both on crew schedule and ground station coverage.